Like I said, guys, thanks for being here. I think this can be pretty epic. This is the first Decentralized AI Day. We had a summit last year in Austin to bring the protocols together. And we just want to kind of do this on a regular basis to bring together the whole community that's building decentralized AI, sort of a space for everybody. That whether you're doing compute or code or smart agents or any part of the ecosystem, we want you here. So why don't we go ahead and we'll kick off. So this is the whole theme, right? Go and make it. That's what we're all about. And just to sort of set the context, anybody that doesn't know me, David Johnston, most people know me as the guy that coined the term dApps. More recently, I wrote the paper on smart agents back in 2023, but sort of a decentralist and been advocating this idea of increasing decentralization is good for all humans. So yeah, why don't we go ahead and kick off, right? This is what sort of brought the communities together. Just sort of a reminder, this is the urgency. We are on a timeline. We've only got 149 days before a lot of the most draconian regulations in the US start to hit. So did anybody read the executive order they passed last October? Maybe about half the audience. So just to give you a quick TLDR, if you didn't read it, it was 100 pages long. If you enjoyed KYC for your money, welcome to KYC for your data center. So they're gonna start blocking all foreigners from certain countries accessing US compute. The only way you can do that is implement KYC. Okay, that's annoying, but probably the craziest one is in July, the Commerce Department is going to determine if open source weights for AI constitute dual use munitions and thus will be traded as weapons, and it'll be a felony to release a US based model without registration with Homeland Security, a license from the government, a safety committee, right? This is largely regulatory capture, right? Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, they paid a lot of lobbyists last year to get this executive order passed because a lot of them are nervous that they're going to get disrupted by all these AI startups, right? So if you're not in the $100 billion club, you're not getting the holy water and your models are not going to be approved. So what are we going to do? Obviously, we're going to decentralize. And this is sort of like the patron saint. Does anybody know who this is? This is Phil Zimmermann, right? The man. 1991, they tried to ban encryption for email and he open sourced PGP, right? That was his revolution, is like, yeah, try to ban math. That doesn't work, okay? So he fought it in the courts in 1995 and he won. For some reason, courts were unwilling to ban math and language and books and the things he published his PGP algorithm in. So, that's effectively the playbook we're using here is, these regulations, yes, we'll be fighting the courts, right? But that may be a long battle. And if you want to talk about that battle, there's a wonderful man up front called Dennis. Dennis, wave your hand in the air. All the people that want to go talk, yep, absolutely, big hand of applause. So if you want to fight it on the regulatory side, go talk to Dennis. He's helping do that in South Carolina. Already 20 of the AGs of all the states have signed a letter to the Biden administration. They think this is illegal, right? This executive order. So it's going to get fought in the courts. It's going to get interesting. But in the meantime, the rest of us have to build something, while that happens, right? And so the goal here, as Eric and a lot of others said, decentralizing AI is approaching the importance of decentralizing money, right? And that's sort of what everybody realized last year, right? And Karpathy and a lot of other kind of built on that thing. So credit to Eric. He and a bunch of others hosted a party in San Francisco last year for Keep AI Open. Within 24 hours, we had 700 people show up at this venue to promote keeping open source for AI, right? And this was right after Dev Day, in sort of the heart of Silicon Valley. So amazing event, all the EAC people there, Beth spoke, Eric DJ'd. And sort of what came out of that is this movement of, okay, let's build decentralized AI. And that's what inspired the summit in Austin, and now these decentralized AI days that have pretty much happen every month until the regulations either go into effect or we'll see what happens. But this is sort of the beautiful thing, right? Crypto and AI are coming together. And frankly, I don't think the AI people really cared a lot about peer-to-peer or permissionless or sort of the Web3 type of architectures until these regulations started showing up. All of a sudden, being able to access compute from anywhere in the world, from different jurisdictions, might be really important for your AI startup to continue existing, right? Part of this movement has been Morpheus. Who's already aware of Morpheus? Probably most of the people in the room. Cool. So the Anons dropped the paper in September 2nd. Eric and I were hanging out permissionless on September 9th. We started talking about this concept, there was already a community forming, and then the regulations dropped. And it was like, oh, wow, we need to build this right now as opposed to later. And so it sort of came together. The cool thing is there's no company, there's no foundation, there's no central entity. The authors were Anon, and so it's open to everybody. There's no pre-mine. The only more that will exist are people providing code, people providing capital, people providing inference and compute, and people building front-end interfaces, right? So they picked a really broad distribution type of approach, which I think is really smart, right? I haven't seen something like that since like the early days of Ethereum. And yes, they did a crowd sale, and yes, they rewarded miners, but people forget a lot of the ETH went to developers. Every single person that contributed to GitHub before the launch of Ethereum got ETH, right? And by rewarding coders, you got a great distribution of very smart technical people that wanted to build on that protocol. So I love that Morpheus has set aside 24% of the rewards for coders, 24% for compute, 24% for the capital providers, 24% for the front ends. So you can come with almost any skill set and add value to the community and be part of it, right? Which I think is really cool. That's the whole ethos of having something totally permissionless. So this has really taken off. So anybody saw the fair launch, it's just been incredible to see the response, right? The fair launch started on February 8th. 100,000 staked ETH have come in so far, which is an amazing testament to the community wanting to support open source, permissionless, decentralized AI. So in Boomer Bucks, $300 million, right, has been provided. And I like the approach the paper detailed because you're only providing your yield, right? It's like a rebirth of how to do fair launches without trusting some central party, without having a custodian, without having a treasury or somebody you have to trust. You just put it in the smart contract, donate the yield for however long you want. You can always withdraw it after 7 days, right? And I think that approach has sort of really hit a chord. And so one of the things the Morpheus community is talking about is how to expand this model. And so today here we're talking about this idea of More 20 and basically releasing the smart contracts, the dashboards, the audits, all of the infrastructure for projects that want to launch their own fair launch to do so with sort of battle-tested smart contracts and dashboards and all of this infrastructure. So because we would love to see more people using this type of model and moving away from companies and foundations and centralized entities. And that way, I think you'll get a much better result. As you look at, a lot of the risks with the ICOs of 2017 had to do with handing a central party money, hoping they produce some software, and hoping one day a token was issued. Here, this whole fair launch approach kind of resolves a lot of those risk factors, lets people hold on to their own capital, which is really cool. So if you want to talk to Chris or Jeff, you guys raise your hands real quick. A lot of the Morpheus community are into this idea of extending this whole More 20 smart contract infrastructure. And, I think after the fair launch goes to the point of people can claim their more in March 8th, we'll sort of see validation of the entire infrastructure for doing one of these fair launches. But let me talk more about the broader community. Because one of the most common questions I get is, how is Morpheus different than BitTensor or Akash or stuff like this? If you read the paper, Morpheus is compute agnostic. You can provide the inference from anywhere. Morpheus is in a way consuming compute, right? The smart agents are using these models. So if you're a fan of Akash or BitTensor, great. Like, they're welcome to provide as much compute as they want to the smart agents on Morpheus. So the more the smart agents on Morpheus grow, the more it will consume the compute and the inference available from these different networks. So Morpheus sort of functions as this marketplace, this incentive layer on top Because the truth is we need a lot of pieces to build the decentralized AI tech stack. Not only do we need the front ends like you see here, we need the models, we need the compute and training, we need the smart contract infrastructure, inference, but also like generalized tools for anybody that wants to build a smart agent. You need a whole toolbox of things. The folks from Protocol Labs are here. You need decentralized data storage. Because one of the things you want to do is be able to have a personal AI and then take that context anywhere. Well, you have to have persistent data storage to accomplish that, right? And you finally have to have people running nodes in the infrastructure. So there's an entire community that we need to collaborate together in order to build this decentralized AI tech stack. And we've got 4 or 5 months to get it to sort of a MVP type of level where you can use it robustly globally as a lot of these regulations go into effect. So anybody that hasn't already wants to join the Morpheus community or talk about decentralized AI, there's both the link for the Discord as well as the X handle up there. There's already thousands of people that have flowed into the community. And again, it's worth emphasizing this is permissionless. You don't need to seek out some foundation to give you permission to build something on Morpheus. Those that build and ship the code are the people that get rewarded, right? And so think it much more of as a marketplace and as an open competition for people that just want to ship their code. And just like the App Store, like how much Apple going to pay me? I don't know. It depends on how popular your app is and how many people download it and how people use it, right? So the whole infrastructure on Morpheus is built to reflect individuals that can make their own choices about which models they want to use, which smart contracts they want to use, and it just gives them all of those options. So let's shift gears to talk about today. We've got a really incredible lineup of people. And, so this is the first half of the agenda. We're going to have Greg next from Akash talking about, what they're building. We've got Ilya from Near at 11. Then we're going to have a bit of a break. The whole structure here is designed for it to be maximally collaborative, right? If you look at the agenda, there are not talks the whole day. There are hours open where we want you guys to meet each other. And honestly, that's the most interesting thing about most conferences, right? This is a purely community event. Like people did not pay or sponsor to speak. Everybody here was already a part of the community and they threw cash together to make this event happen. So there's not an agenda full of, paid speakers. And so it leaves a lot of space for everybody to just openly collaborate. And we think that's the right approach. So half talks, you feel free to cycle in and out of the room. We've got a lot of spaces where people can network outside of the talks. So Greg will kick us off first, then we'll go to Ilya. We'll do our first break. I'm really excited to have the folks from Noose here. They're going to kick us off in the second session at 11:50. Niraj from Ritual. We'll go to Scott from Stability AI. We'll have a demo by the Sapien guys, talk about decentralized data labeling. And then finally, a demo by Lilypad. Get into a nice lunch. And Sapien bought everybody lunch. Thank you to Sapien. And then we'll basically start a series of open collaboration and workshops that go from the 1:15 to the 3:30. I know our friends from Protocol Labs, when I raise their hand, they'll be running a lot of the collaborative stuff when it comes to Decentralized Storage Alliance. And so glad to have them here. And then we'll get back together for talks at 3:30. We'll have Wormhole, OIR, and then we'll have announcements from Ryan and others about the architecture for implementing compute on Morpheus, and then offer some rewards to different contributors building new implementations. Then finally, we're going to close out. Don't miss it at 5:30. Eric's going to do a fireside chat, and we'll sort of talk about this whole revolution that's going on. And then finally, we'll break for, food trucks, caffeine, dinner, whatever people want to do, and come back at 8 for the party. So if you didn't know, there's a party from 8 to 12. Eric's and DJ. It should be a lot of fun. So anyway, that's basically our kickoff. Greg, if you want to come up, I don't know if you've got your slides and everything, we'll get you hooked in for your talk. But glad you guys are all here. Thanks for being here. Let's do it. All right, I saw Greg just enter. He's around here somewhere. If not, somebody can grab him real quick. For who's already familiar with Akash, so I'll just do a quick intro. All right, so a lot of Akash fans in the room. Honestly, I was really impressed by their presentation in Austin because it showed basically their working marketplace. It's really mature as far as the ability to provide inference on just about any model that you want to use. And so a lot of the people in the Morpheus community have been asking, how can I provide compute, right? And while it's agnostic, you can point to, oh, go look at Akash, go look at others. They have endpoints, and then you'll be able to point those API endpoints as soon as the rewards for compute go live in Morpheus to use that marketplace. Like Morpheus is not reinventing that infrastructure. Like that already exists. Glad Akash and BitTensor and others are doing that. And so it sort of creates an ability for people to get going very quickly if they've got a GPU to create all that infrastructure when it comes to the APIs and everything else. So that's Greg. Hey, come on up. We're gonna kick off you here a little bit early. I never take my full time. So I'm just bragging on Akash and why everybody should put their GPUs on it. So very cool.